Hello. Thank you for joining us today and welcome to our session, our webinar today, Saving Time, Money, and Resources with CAD Integrated Solutions. Today for our agenda, we'll be going over a couple items. We'll be going over a couple quick introductions, some housekeeping items. Also, our speaker will be going over how Frederick County uses us, their CAD use case. We'll also be doing a CAD overview with our Everbridge speaker, Mike Wallach, and then we'll finish it off with a quick Q&A. And just as a reminder for anyone who's looking to ask questions today, you can do so by submitting your question at any time. So if you have a question during the webinar and don't want to forget it, feel free to do that any time by going to the GoToWebinar panel on the right side of your screen and selecting the drop-down questions and submitting your questions to all panelists. We'll try and get through as many questions as time allows. If we do not get to your question, we'll make sure to send those questions to your, if you're an Everbridge customer, to your Everbridge account manager, or if you're a prospective customer interested in learning a little bit more than what today's session offered, we'll have a product specialist reach out to you to give you some more of that information. As always, you can follow us on Twitter at Everbridge, and feel free to join our LinkedIn group. It's Everbridge Incident Management Professionals. So at this time, I'm going to hand it over to our speaker, and then as always, we'll follow up with the Everbridge speaker, who is Mike Wallach today, Senior Sales Engineer for Everbridge. So Seamus, you may begin.
Thank you. My name's Seamus Mooney. I hope you all can see my screen, which is the PowerPoint I'm going to go through today. Just give you a little background on myself. I'm the Director of Emergency Preparedness for Frederick County, Maryland. I've been the Director for almost 10 years now, and we've been an Everbridge client for 5. Or actually, I'm about 5. August 31st will be 5 years with Everbridge. So with that, I'm going to talk a little background, then I'm going to talk about how we've structured our email ingestion overview, and then I'm going to talk a little bit more of the structure that it's set up, and I'm going to talk about what we're going to do with the email ingestion next, and then I'll open it up to questions. On the other side is a map. It shows where Frederick County is in relation to the Mid-Atlantic region. We are located in north central Maryland. So to give you a little background, our county touches Pennsylvania to the north, Carroll County, Montgomery County to the east and south, Howard County in the southeast, Washington County to our west, and then the state of Virginia to our southwest. We have 5 interstate and national highways that divide the county. We're about 46 miles from Baltimore and about 43 miles from D.C. We are the biggest county in the state of Maryland by geographic area, about 660 square miles. And our population estimate for 2013 is about 241,000 people. County seat is the city of Frederick. It's actually the 2nd largest city in the state of Maryland, and then we have 11 other incorporated municipalities. So this is Frederick County. What you see are the municipalities and their municipal boundaries. We also are home to the Catoctin National Park, which is site of the Camp David Presidential Retreat. We have Fort Detrick and the U.S. government's biomedical research labs located within the county. Mount St. Mary's University, Hood College, and EMI and the National Fire Academy are also located in Frederick County. Frederick County runs a combination and career system. We have 30 fire stations, 28 volunteer stations, 2 career stations, and then we also have 2 federal fire stations, one being at Fort Detrick and one being up at Camp David. We have 340 career staff, 800 active volunteers, and then we also have another probably 2,000 to 3,000 associated volunteers that do other support items for the volunteer companies. Our fire calls, they run about 34,000 calls annually. And then for CAD, we run Intergraph version 9.1. Currently, we're in the process of upgrading to 9.3. And then our 911 center handles about 43,000 calls annually. And we dispatch for not only fire, but the sheriff's office. We have 3 other police agencies in the county that we dispatch for, as well as the federal fire stations, and then the National Park Police, Maryland State Police as well. So a quick overview. Prior to using Everbridge, we had a number of solutions that we were using to do alerts from CAD, to include code messaging, I'm responding, and others. And those all seemed to work very good, but it was very haphazard. We had a lot of companies that would use one and then they would switch, and it was very, it would change from month to month or election to election. So it was causing us some issues. We had to constantly update through our 911 center staff individual and group accounts to make sure that they were getting the CAD messages. So the way it would work was Intergraph would send it to, would use code messaging. They would send it to a code message account, either for an individual or for a volunteer company, and then it would distribute out the message from there. But we were spending a significant amount of staff time making sure that contact information was good. So we started to look for a solution that would allow the companies to start maintaining their own information as far as what alerts they want to get. We wanted to try and reduce the number of alerting platforms that we were sending messaging to. And then we also, key was reduce staff time and adding contact paths to units for each fire station. And we still wanted to allow the individual fire companies to send company level information to each other. We didn't want to interrupt that. So like I said, we've been clients of Everbridge since 2010. So we approached them about looking at their API for integration to CAD. And as part of that demo, they showed us the email ingestion engine. And we kind of latched onto that because we felt it gave us a little more flexibility and also the ability to do some customization on our own once we got used to how to build the email ingestion. So what we purchased from Everbridge, we purchased a package which is 50,000 text messages, as well as 5,000 calling minutes a year, and that's just for the email ingestion engine. And when we were looking at how we would set it up, the first decision we had to make was how we were going to send calls from our CAD system. Right now, as they come out of CAD, they're associated by unit. So when a call comes in, it puts it's a fire. It'll put an engine, a specific engine on that call. So basically, we had to decide, did we want to follow that model and allow volunteers to sign up for individual pieces of apparatus, or we decided to actually simplify it, and we have, for most of our volunteer companies, we have they can select fire, EMS, and then there's an admin category. So the fire and EMS calls are sent straight from CAD. So an email will come out of Intergraph, and it will go into the ingestion engine, and then I'll show you how the ingestion engine parses what information's in that email, and then it sends it out. The admin is strictly for company use, so we allow them to use that for individual and group messaging amongst themselves. And they don't use the ingestion engine. They actually use the normal interface, either through the app or through the system. CAD messaging is, we're only sending that via text and email. alerting. So we are not using the calling minutes for direct CAD messaging. But I'll talk into some next steps. We are going to use those minutes in another way. The Ingestion Engine takes the email from CAD, identifies which units are on the call, and then we'll actually send that out, or we'll actually create an incident, and then the incident is sent out via the Everbridge system. So this is the structure that we follow. The first part there, right under email, is what the message coming out of Intergraph looks like. So, this was a small structure fire. The next part after the slash is basically the address of where that fire was. And then C map, that's all, map book information for them. And then the last bit is all of the units that were on that call. So CT is call type for this was structure fire. In the example, engine 102, which is the first one, that's station 10, engine 2. ET 184 is engine tanker. It's from station 18. It's tanker 4. A 307 is station 30, ambulance 7. RS is rescue squad from station 10. So that's kind of how it goes through. There's a bunch of other ones in there. Q is for Quint. And then we also have, I talked about the engine tankers, and TWR is Tower 6 on that breakdown. So the resulting alert is we are sending to station 10 fire, to station 18 fire, to station 30 EMS, and then to station 10 EMS. So those are the stations and the category for each of those stations that would be alerted from that email. We also built some specialty units in there. So we have medic units, hazmat, our advanced technical rescue ATR team, our canteen. We also have battalions in there. So battalion BAT 900 is battalion 900. And then SFT 900 is safety officer 900. So they were on the call above. So, once the stations have been identified, an incident is created, and then that alert is sent to those stations to let their career and volunteer know that they've been placed on a call. And again, this is just one method that we let them know. We also obviously put it out over the air, over our 800 megahertz system. And then we also have in-station printing, so we send it to the printers there in each of the fire stations, as well as they have tones that go off within each station. So this is a little tough to see, but this is basically what the kind of a break of what the Ingestion Engine looks like. So the first two, CAD details 1 and 2, basically those are just placeholders, and it's up to 1,000 characters. So whatever the message is, the first 1,000 characters, it's going to grab and it's going to basically forward that information on as part of the email text message. And then for each of the ones below it, you see Company 1 and Company 2, both EMS and fire, and those are how we kind of had to write, so it would basically take the information related to that unit and send it on. So we identified most of the units that are from each station. We are currently working on, we have a couple of small issues with that to resolve. One being when we bring in a replacement unit, we don't have a unified way of naming that unit. So for each station, it's a little different. So every once in a while, we'll get a unit in there that's a replacement. We're running an engine, we replace it with an engine tanker. They're going to call it engine tanker 105, and we don't have 105 built. So there's some small glitches in there that we are still working out as we continue to build in this product. We are actually trying to push forward a common naming structure. So hopefully if we do that, then I can just build those into each of the companies, and that should resolve the issue. So we're working through some of the things like that. I would encourage anyone that's thinking about it to try and simplify the best you can what's going to be coming out of CAD, because then you can build the engine and maintain the engine a little easier. I really didn't want to use units, but as we looked at it, that was the best way for us, so that's the way we built the engine. We also use the email ingestion engine for public alerting. So we actually take a feed from the National Weather Service, their INWS feed, and anything that comes in from that to the email ingestion engine, it will basically send it out if it starts with the new event nomenclature at the beginning. So if it comes in as new event, it's a watch, warning, or advisory. That's automatically sent to our community category for severe weather. And since automating it, we've increased the speed at which we can send out those alerts, because before it was a staff member who was getting the alert, then getting into the system or going into the app and sending it out. Now it's about a minute from when it comes in from INWS to when the ingestion engine sends it. Anything for like an extended alert, canceled alerts, or sometimes it's an update. We still send to social media, but we actually are not sending that to the public. We figured the increased traffic might cause a few of them to opt out of the system, so we just kind of kept it with just the first new event, watch, warning, or advisory that's sent out by the National Weather Service. Next step, so we're building an ingestion to start sending alerts to the Red Cross for on-scene support for their after the fire program. We will actually be using the calling minutes that we purchased to do some of that work. So basically, anytime CAD, we have built into CAD 2 different Red Cross units. So when they're put on a call by request of the incident commander, it'll go to the ingestion engine. Then the ingestion engine will basically automatically call the on-duty staff and then send the rest of the volunteers basically an email and text message and let them know that that call has been generated. So that's one of the things that we're going to be building here in the near future. We're also going to start sending CAD alerts related to county staff for incidents at county buildings. So for each building, we have a defined group of people that want to get email notifications if there's an issue. For an example, the jail. If the jail loses power, or there's a ambulance call at the jail, then staff will be notified directly. That are obviously it's the staff that wouldn't be on. It'd be the other staff. We're also building in backdoor for all 3 of our organizations. So we have an organization for public alerting, we have an organization for employee alerting, and then we have our fire and rescue organization. So select staff will be able to send automatic alerts by just sending an email to the ingestion engine. And that has to be done by individuals, so we're building that now. And as part of this, we identified, as we looked at how to build the ingestion engine, we did purchase some additional consulting service hours from Everbridge. Basically, we have their programmers kind of help us flush out the initial how to build the ingestion, and then as it's built, we learn how to build it, and then we are modifying it as we need to. And that's worked very well on the CAD ingestion. They built it for us. We learned while they were building it, and now we've had to make modifications, add units, things like that. So we've been able to do that pretty successfully. The one thing I would identify, and I have this into Everbridge, is a request for an enhancement. But as the email ingestion, what happens is it creates an incident, and that incident is basically sends the email to all the parties. Those incidents right now don't close automatically, so we're having to go in and close them, which for the weather side is no big deal, because we don't send out that many alerts, warnings, and watches. You can have a few here and there, but in the course of a month, it isn't that many, thankfully. But on the CAD side, that's a significant number. You know, we are definitely in the, you know, probably 2,000 to 3,000 a month range. So we're having to go in and close those all by hand. So I have that in as a request for enhancement. And if you're looking at the Ingestion Engine, I would encourage you to do the same. So that's the down and dirty on how we set up the email ingestion engine. And there's my contact information if you would like that and have any direct questions that we don't cover here as part of the presentation.
Thank you, Seamus. At this point, I'm going to hand it over to Mike Wallach. He's a senior sales engineer here at Everbridge. He's going to go over a couple slides and give an overview of the CAD solution and email ingestion engine. And before I hand it over to you, Mike, I'm just going to, for everyone who's interested in our CAD integrated solution, I'm going to send out right now a handout so you guys can access that in your GoToWebinar panel. If you go to the right side of your screen and the drop-down button for handouts, you will see Computer-Aided Dispatch, CAD Solutions, a PDF. You can download that now, and you'll be able to see sort of what's in there in a little bit more detail. So at this point, Mike, you may begin.
All right, thanks. So I just want to kind of cover a little more broadly, you know, how the email ingestion functionality works. In this particular case, can be used very effectively for a CAD integration, but also to kind of give you an idea of, you know, some of the other things that it is used for, because it's not just for CAD, right? So I want to kind of step back and talk a little more generally speaking, really how it works. So as you would imagine, it's all about, you know, a system or a person in some cases sending an email to a defined email address at Everbridge, right? And whether that's from some sort of emergency manager or from a network operations center or from police or fire, right? So there's a lot of different use cases here. That email comes into Everbridge through the mail server, and then, like Seamus had mentioned, it gets parsed out according to the rules that you set up, right? And these can be anything from very simply looking for keywords in the subject or something like that, or simple identifiers, or in Frederick County's case, have some really advanced regular expression parsing, right? So you have a lot of flexibility on whether you need very simple parsing of your emails or you want something very, very advanced. And like you mentioned, that creates a new incident and launches that messaging to whoever that might be. Another aspect of this, let me go to the next one, is that you can also have dynamic recipients, right? So in a lot of cases, an incident template that is defined behind an email ingestion rule will have the recipients defined already, right, perhaps. But you also can have that email, the content of the email rather, drive who this message is going to go to by also parsing out that email subject or body to look for individuals or groups of people, so that not only can the email trigger that message, but then the recipients for that message can be part of that as well. So you can really have a very quick and easy way to integrate with the various numbers of systems. Right, like I had mentioned here, this is, sorry if that's a little small, you might do something simple where I'm looking for, say, a severity in the subject, and you there's some sort of token at the beginning and the end to look for a severity. Or you could have, like I mentioned, that full regular expression parsing engine, so if you need to look for patterns. And that's the example that Seamus had showed you, where they were looking for certain expressions for different things, like, you know, engines versus engine tankers versus things like that. And that really provides a lot more flexibility, a lot more power where and when you need it, right? And what's nice about that is you kind of have the best of both worlds. You can have a very simple ingestion rule if you have a simple use case, but you still have that flexibility and that power of the regular expressions, but you don't necessarily have to go the hard route, right, which is kind of a nice balance. You get the best of both worlds in that case. The other thing that is really important, and again, I apologize if the screenshot's a little small, is once you've mapped your ingestion rule to an incident template and you've written, say, your regular expressions to parse out values, there's a testing functionality here where you can put in who the emails would have gone to, right, the Everbridge email address, what the subject is, what the body is, and then you can preview and check to see that your expressions or your parsing rules are working correctly. So you can see if you're getting the entire line instead of one word, or something like that. So you can test all of your rules without having to send an email, see if it worked, send another email, see if it worked. You can just test it all right here before you even send any emails at all. So that's another nice big time saver there, especially when you're dealing with regular expressions. All right, there's my 5 minutes on email ingestion. Not even 5 minutes.
Awesome. Thank you, Michael. Thank you, Seamus. So at this point, I'm going to take control back, and we're going to go into our Q&A portion. So just about 1 minute. Okay. So our first question, and actually before we get started, as a reminder for anyone who has a question, you can ask them by going to the GoToWebinar panel on the side of your screen, selecting the drop-down questions, and submitting your question to all panelists. We'll be going through a couple questions until we hit the half-hour mark, and then we will conclude the webinar. So, Mike, the first question is for you. Joe in the audience wants to know, is this a standard EB product, or is this with the standard MN package, or is this an add-on?
So it is a, bear with me 1 second, it's a standard feature that comes with the incident communications part of the platform, or maybe to put it another way, it is not part of the standard mass notification offering. It comes with incident communications. Okay,
perfect. You've answered another question. So Seamus, I have a question from another customer directed towards you from Elaine. She wants to know how, at a high level, has this email ingestion relieved some of your previous challenges? I think she missed the first part of yours.
Sure. I think that it's done a couple things for us. One, it's drastically reduced the staff time that 911 center staff is basically updating information on who receives CAD alerts. So basically now we've pushed that out to the end companies and allowing them to maintain their own data. So that was a big step. Also, we've made a concerted effort to reduce the number of alerting platforms that we're using to try and help streamline some of this. So, you know, we have reduced our costs as well.
Awesome. Thank you, Seamus. The next question for you, Mike, is actually a follow-up from Jack. He wants to know, because he actually has IC, can you submit email for any event, or do you need to create an incident template first?
You do have to have an incident template, although you could, in theory, run everything through a single template if you wanted to. But yes, you do have to have every email ingestion rule maps to an incident template. Yes.
Awesome. Mike, the next question is from Lynn. She wants to know, does the interface require new software to be run on the CAD system?
It does not. The CAD system, whatever it might be, simply needs to be able to send an email to an Everbridge email address, right? So as long as it can send an email, that's all it needs to be able to do. Now, I'm not familiar with every CAD system out there, but I would think that that's a fairly standard function, at least on the more common ones, I would guess. So there's no special software that I'm aware of, at least in the handful of CADs that I've worked with.
Okay. The next question is from Steve in the audience, Mike. He wants to know, can you identify different organizations within an account to receive emails?
So in a way, yes. So the email ingestion and then more broadly speaking, just incident communications in general is I guess an organization level feature. So you might have, like Seamus had mentioned, he had multiple organizations. Each one of those organizations has its own set of email ingestion rules and its own set of incident templates. So you could set up, or I guess to maybe put it another way, so yes, you can do what you want to do, but because there will be multiple configurations. So this org will have this email ingestion with this email address, and a separate org will have its own email ingestion with a different address or addresses. So I hope that makes sense.
Thank you. The next question is for you, Seamus. Robert would like to know, how is the reliability of the system how reliable has the system been for you with paging responders?
We've had a lot of success with it. We did have an issue right at the beginning, but it was because there was a software update done. Once we worked through Everbridge and figured that out, we haven't had any issues with the system not being reliable. And delivery time is within 30 seconds of what the old system was, so it's still pretty fast. So we've been pretty happy in that regard.
And he actually had a follow-up question, Seamus. He wanted to know, so it's related to what you just said. He wanted to know what is the approximate time from the CAD to end user getting the calls?
Some of that obviously depends on what device they're receiving it and where they are in the county. We don't get great cell service and everywhere in the county, but we're noticing it's probably from the time the call leaves CAD till the time that, well, I'll just use the first person receives it, is probably 45 seconds to a minute. Perfect.
The next question from Lynn is for you, Mike. She wants to know, is Everbridge all run in the cloud, and also is the ingestion software also in the cloud?
Yes, Everbridge is an entirely software as a service, fully hosted solution, yes.
Okay. The next question is for you, Mike, as well. It's from Donald in the audience. He wants to know, can community notifications be made directly from CAD in regards to situations in their community, or is it limited to incident information to responders?
Well, so you can, more generally speaking, right, is you can have an email ingestion rule, take in whatever information you'd like, which is mapped to an incident template, and then that information, as much or as little, however much you want, can be delivered to anyone you like. I mean, really, we're not going to prevent you from sending information. If you wanted to notify the entire county about something based on an email ingestion, you absolutely could do that. Right? There's no technical reason you couldn't do that. Now, you might not want to do that for various reasons, but no, we're not going to restrict who it can go to or what information can be included.
Perfect. And just as a reminder, we actually have a couple more questions I'd like to get to, so we're going to go a little over. So okay. Anyone who has to jump, just a heads up, we are recording this session, and we will send it out to all attendees and registrants. So the next question we have is from Jim, and Mike, this is for you. He wants to know, if he only has mass notification, how would he go about doing something like this? Can he use the Everbridge Open API?
Yeah, so if you just had MM, which does not have that email ingestion engine, there are ways you could use the API to do something similar. For example, you could have a CAD system, assuming it has this capability, could interact with the API directly. I mean, that's certainly an option. Or what I've seen done in the past, before email ingestion existed anywhere, is customers would have essentially their own version of email ingest, where they would send an email, it would end up on a machine. I'm using that term loosely, that they host themselves, and then that would parse the email and then make an API call to Everbridge. So certainly is possible to do. Like, all the tools are there, right? But it would have to be built or put together, so to speak.
Okay. So I'm going to finish off with this last question. Which one was it? And it's from Robert in the audience, Mike. He wants to know, do you need an incident template for each station?
Not necessarily. And that's the beauty of the flexibility of this. So it really depends, the number of incident templates really depends on how different, or do you want the messaging or anything like that to be different, right? So if every station wants, I want text and email, goes to everybody, and the message looks exactly the same and there's no changes, you certainly could have a single template and use the dynamic nature of incident templates to use variables that are coming in on that front end to say, and notify this station, for example. That could be one of your inputs coming from the email, and then that could drive who gets that message. So you certainly, in theory, could have a single template handle every station if you wanted that same configuration for all of them.
Mike, it's Seamus. Just to point to that, that's actually how ours is set up. So we only have, for all of our station alerting, it's one template. So we just built them in all in one.
Yeah, I figured as much, but I didn't want to assume that.
Yep.
But yeah.
Awesome. So at this point, we're about 5 minutes past the half-hour mark. So I want to thank Seamus and Mike Wallach for joining us today and presenting. Seamus, thank you again. And I want to thank all the audience members who were able to join us today. As always, for those questions we didn't get to, we'll have your account manager, your Everbridge account manager, follow up with you privately. And then for anyone interested who isn't a customer, we will have a product specialist reach out to you as well. If you want a recording of this webinar, you will be sent an email. If you do not receive that, you can also access it under our resources section under webinars. Again, thanks everyone for joining us today, and thank you to our speakers. Have a great day.